For the last several years, I have built quite a bit of a collection of DVDs. I would say at this point, if you include my large Ingmar Bergman pack and a couple other packs like the Jacques Tati pack, and then stuff I've gotten for
I
Blu-rays,
want the
because
Tati. I
the
want the Tati box set.
Tati box set is one of my favorite box sets. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Tati's my favorite
Yeah.
director of all time. So
Hmm.
having his work and putting it on is just an incredible experience. But
Yeah, that's an essential thing to have. Yeah.
over the years, I've at this point probably have over 100 DVDs. Not nearly as many books as I have. I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds of books. But I started this collection of DVDs, and Emily pointed out recently that I have all these DVDs, but I never really watched them.
Are they DVDs or Blu-rays?
Sorry, they're almost all Blu-rays,
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
except well, I don't know if the Igmar Bergman collection, I don't know if those are Blu-rays or not. I mean, I think
Is
they're
it in HD when
still
you watch it? If it's in HD, then it's Blu-ray. If it's not, then it's not.
yeah. The Bergman ones are, but I do have this collection called the Fabulous 40s, which is about
Hmm.
I think it's 40 films. It's actually a pretty cool collection. Here, let me grab it just so I can show. I got this for my birthday 2 years ago. So it's like one of those collections that you get on
Oh
I think
yeah.
it's sold by like TCM or something.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
got like
no,
50
yeah,
films on it.
it's like I'm guessing, yeah, those are like films that aren't necessarily like easily licensed in order and pack them all together, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
think
that's what's
that
great.
that's cool. Those are fun.
What I really love about these is of course you have some big hitters like His Girl
There's,
Friday and stuff, but a
yeah,
lot of these films are films that I've never heard of before, like directors I've never
right.
heard of.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
Because it's like
because
they're
they're
like
so easy,
they're
right?
easily licensed. Yeah,
They're
yeah. To
easily
just like license, because no
licensed.
one cares them. That's the thing that you would get like a grandfather who like lives like in a nursing home to keep him busy or something like that.
But I love this film because it's like a great way to explore
Yeah,
kind of a part of cinema that's
right.
it's legitimately dying. Not just that era, right? They have ones for every era
Yeah,
because they're so easily licensed. Like no one wants to put them on their streaming service because no one wants to watch them. So there's all these films that exist.
yeah,
I mean, that little pack had like 50 films on it, and those are DVDs. So like those
yeah.
aren't even like some of those aren't even 1080. Like some of those I'm watching in like 720. Like the
Right. No,
they're not well, even though
they're
these
like
films are from the
360.
1940s, like some of them look like they were shot on like they look like they were shot in the
Yeah,
1920s because no one's restored them, right? These aren't restorations. These are just like we found this film
yeah. They're not.
reel,
Yeah,
right? And we need to digitize it before it's
right.
completely destroyed. And sometimes you'll see a gem there, right? You'll see something that's like, wow, I'm really glad I saw that. I mean, a lot
Yeah,
of them are just kind of your typical 1940s slap. It's like, oh yeah, I can see why this didn't really move on to be on the
yeah.
Criterion channel. But it is a magical world to live in, and so I do like having things like that, right? So I have well over 100 films here on my shelf,
Yeah.
and especially recently, I haven't been watching them because I have this rule where I will not buy a Blu-ray that I haven't seen before. Like I'm not, even though it's only, if I go to the half price bookstore, it's only like $2, like 2.99 for a Blu-ray, right? Really great deal, really cheap. But I'm so cheap that I'm unwilling to risk it unless I really like I know it's a film that you really like and I'm like, "Oh, I'm willing to buy that." Or I know a lot about the film. So they're all films I've seen before and
Yeah.
I'm not a huge rewatcher or haven't been for most of my life. I'm not been someone who's like, oh, I want to go rewatch this movie. I want to rewatch. But so that's meant for basically the last year or so. These films have been sitting on my shelf, just gathering
Mhm.
dust, and like that's pointless. That's dumb. Like, what's the point of having all these movies if I'm not going to actually watch them? And I don't know if it's because I'm going to be a father soon or I'm getting a little bit older, but recently I've been really craving like rewatches. And I don't know why that is. There's
Yeah.
just like something like I want to rewatch, like I want to like relive these memories, these moments. And so what I've been doing is because I don't necessarily have the time to watch a ton of movies in the day, because even though I'm on summer vacation, that's coming to an end very soon. I gotta go back to the grind very soon. And we still have
Wow.
all the other things that we do, working on screenplays, my novel, and the podcast and all that. So what I do is while I'm working on the podcast particularly, is I'll throw in a DVD and I'll just have it on in the background. So it's a great
Yeah.
way to, especially films that I've already seen before, because I'm very familiar with these films. Like I rewatched Total Recall recently, a movie I've seen quite a few times. still very enjoyable on the rewatch. But it's great to have on the
Yeah,
background.
that's good. That's a
You
good
know
movie
what's
to
going
watch in the
on,
background. Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
can kind
You
of turn
definitely
around
want,
and
yeah.
see like, oh, here's the
Yeah.
explosions. Here's like this
Oh yeah,
fun
that's
thing that happening. Look at that
yeah, I
effects,
agree.
right? And so now recently I have that huge Bergman pack, and I'm a
Mhm.
completionist when it comes to Bergman. I've seen pretty much every one of his films, so I'm
Yeah.
rewatching all of his work, and it's great. Like I just watched Wild Strawberries yesterday. It's a little tougher
Hmm.
with films that aren't English because, like, right, you can't
Yeah,
sit
I
there and
wouldn't do
read
that.
the subtitles. But half the
Right.
time, I don't even have the sound on anyways because if I'm working on the podcast, like I gotta be able to hear it or I gotta be doing that. But it is great to have something on the background and just be able to turn around or kind of look at the screen and just like when you need a brain break, right? When you're like even so focused on something, just to have something on, they can be like, oh yeah, like that's a really cool moment, or just kind of
Hmm.
get captured in that moment every now and then. So I've been
Yeah.
getting back into DVDs. It's something I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a lot more DVDs. I did go to the Barnes and Noble last week, right after we talked about because you got the Pat
Hmm.
Garrett, which I actually saw, and I was like this
Yeah.
close to buying it. I almost
Yeah, no,
bought
no,
it.
no. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with the rule of buying movies that you already love and that you've seen. But I have broken that rule quite a few times, just because and Pat Garrett was one of them. Just because it's like I don't know how I would not like it,
Yeah,
and guess what? I didn't. I loved it. It's
you
like one of the
loved
best
it.
movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't, that it was a chunk of change to buy in a movie that I've never seen before. But again, I had the feeling and I was right.
You're
So,
right. So I mean,
that
we're
happens. And,
yeah,
I mentioned Inherent Vice earlier before we started recording. And that's another movie that I bought like a used $8 Blu-ray at a store. This is the one PTA movie I haven't seen. It's never on streaming. I'm gonna buy the used Blu-ray and I'm sure I'll like it. And you know what I did? So I think it's fine to do that as long as you're making a good educated guess about it. So
yeah. I wouldn't go with anything risky, but I did go to Barnes and Noble. I only bought one film there,
uh-huh.
but I got Eraserhead,
Because
which
they're
is
doing the 50% off sale.
50% off. So it's typically $40. So it was gonna be $20, but then I
Right,
had a
yeah.
$5 coupon because I'm a Barnes and Noble
Oh, cool.
Rewards member.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying a Criterion Collection Eraserhead for like $16.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah, it's pretty good.
the
Yeah,
greatest.
I have that one too. I've had that one. I've had that one since college. That's a good collection. That's a
It's,
good
yeah,
the Eraserhead Blu-ray. I think I have almost all of the Lynch
really.
Criterion Collection Blu-rays. Yeah, I don't think I have Lost Highway or Inland Empire or Firewalk with me. I think those are the only ones I don't have, but I have everything else.
The only Lynch I have Eraserhead, and then I have the first two seasons of Twin Peaks. I thought when I my parents got me this Twin Peaks collection, I was hoping I had the third season because I just got this collection not very
Uh,
long ago. But unfortunately, it's only the original two seasons, which are still incredible. But I would like to get that third season on there because I mean it's on
and
Showtime.
Firewalk with me.
Fire Walk with Me. I need to get Fire Walk with Me too. But I think the value of having DVDs is it can be frustrating when there's a movie you really like and it's been on a
Yeah,
streaming
like
service like
yeah.
Netflix or something for a while, and then suddenly they take it off. And it's like right impossible to find suddenly because there's some weird like thing with like the director or the production company or just something happens, and so it's
No,
nice.
no, those things happen all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that assurity, right? Like, oh, I like if I
Yeah.
want to watch
No matter what.
Eraserhead or if I want to watch Playtime, which
Mhm.
like Jack to stuff. I mean, it's been on and off Criterion Channel, but even on the Criterion Channel, right? They're constantly taking stuff off. They do that on every streaming
Yeah,
service.
you never know when they might take it off.
And so you never know when they're going to take these things off. And it's like if it's a movie you really love, I think it's worth the
Mm.
investment. And it's interesting because I thought my students like they'd have a really hard time with that, but my students are actually like big proponents of owning Blu-rays and DVDs. And I think part of that is because they
Yeah.
live in a very rural community. So a lot of them don't have good access to the internet. Like their streaming is
Mhm.
shit, or they have to go somewhere to get internet just because they live in the middle
Mhm.
of a desert. So the library is such when I go to the libraries in like Carson City and Dayton, they're much smaller than Reno, but their film collections
Mhm.
are ginormous because everyone in these
Yeah.
communities are using them because they're
Like
like, this is
requesting,
the
yeah.
only way to watch these kind of
Mhm.
movies. Like these are the only ways to experience these kinds of things, and owning them is very
Mhm.
important. So it's good to see that at least in rural communities, maybe not so much here in Reno, but at least in rural communities that these younger generations still have the value of because I don't think people look at Blu-rays the way they do like vinyls. Like I think there has been this resurgence in vinyls because it's sonically different than listening to it on streaming, but I think it's a much harder sell for Blu-rays because the quality isn't different, right? You're not really buying it because it has a different quality to it. I mean, you can pretty much watch,
No, I mean, like, if your internet is shit and you're trying to stream a movie and
but
the qua-
yeah,
and it dips, I think even no matter how good your internet is, it's going to be shitty. So it is nice the thought of like buying a Blu-ray of a movie you really like and never having to worry about the fact like, oh
exactly.
no, it's gonna.
So everyone should do it. If you have not started buying it,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Do
took
you,
me a
do
long
you,
time.
do you watch all the special features on it?
It depends. I would say currently not real. I do if the special features are in English, but the problem is it's like if I'm watching like my Mark Bergman stuff like I do now, a lot of those special
Yeah, the
features
like,
are in Swedish
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
talking to the director and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's hard for me to kind of unless I'm gonna sit down and watch it, it's hard for me to kind of get into it. Although
yeah.
special features is one of those things again that I didn't really have a whole lot of interest when I first got into it, and very recently, and I
Mhm.
think this is because we're preparing Brandon. I finally convinced him to shoot the feature. Which was a very long time convincing him. So, I'm preparing for another big production. I've been on a lot of productions as of late. So I'm very interested in this world right now. It's been a long, I mean, I'm on set all of the time, but it's been a long time since I've been in film school, right? So like some of the technical stuff, like it's nice to kind of watch the special features because sometimes, especially like the technical ones, like when they're talking about like story and stuff, like that's interesting. But I have a very good grasp of that. But when they're talking about the more technical side, that stuff's very interesting to me. Like watching, the David Lynch stuff and
Yeah.
talking about like creating that film and how AFI saw it, right? And
Mhm.
they helped finish the film.
Yeah, that's a crazy, yeah, like story of Eraserhead is very interesting. I have a Blu-ray of like Fargo, which is one of my favorite movies, and
Mhm.
I'm not like super into commentaries. Like I haven't listened to every single commentary track on every Blu-ray that I have because
Yeah.
that's a lot, but I do listen to them here and there. There's some I really like, and I like the commentary that I have on my Fargo Blu-ray, which is the cinematographer Roger Deakins
Yeah.
talking about shooting the film. And that's a really great one because he's just talking about like, oh yeah, we got this shot because we did this, this and that. And that to me is like a very good kind of like commentary in lieu of what you're talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's something I'm getting more into, trying to get through my DVDs. I'm definitely going to buy more DVDs.
Hmm.
It's a world I'm going to spend a lot more time in the future, especially because I am going to be a dad soon. So there's going to be a lot more time going on paternity leave next April. So I'll be spending a lot more time
Nice.
at
Good.
home. Hopefully, if I get into the MFA program next
Yeah.
year, I'll only have to work 2 days a week. So that's 3 days a week at home. So, I really
Hmm.
got to ingrain cinema into my kid. So, by the
Sure.
time he's 18 years old, he can go
Yeah.
off and become the next
Yeah.
Orson Welles or whatever he goes off to do. So I'm just gonna
And it's
stuff
fucking it's more fun than going on a streaming service. It's
it
just like it's way
is.
more fun to kind of like go through your Blu-ray collection and be like, oh yeah, da da da. Da. And if it is a movie you've seen before, you could like look at it and be like, oh, it has a commentary track with so and so. I should put that on.
And also, I have a couple hundred vinyls that I've collected over this past year partly because I've been buying a lot of vinyls this last year, and partly because when I brought my vinyls to school, because I play records at school, I got a new record player, which is pretty nice.
Right.
Teachers start singing and they're like, "Hey, I have all these old records, and I don't listen to
Yeah.
records anymore because I have Pandora." Right? Not even Spotify, just
Yeah.
Pandora. So I've been gifted tons and tons of records. And so I play records all day, and the kids are like, I don't understand why you don't just use Spotify. There's a lot of reasons I don't just use Spotify. Of course, I still use Spotify to great effect. Like when I'm in the car and I want to listen to music or I want to listen to something new, I utilize Spotify or
Yeah.
whatever your musical streaming service of choice is. But beyond just the sound quality of using a vinyl is when I'm in a room with 30 kids, I don't want to have to figure out what I'm going to listen to next, or I don't want to just listen to the same fucking playlist all year, right? What's great about it is I
Yeah.
just I just walk up right to my wall of vinyls and whatever's on the end, I just grab it and I put it on, right? You don't have that paradox of choice where you have like so many decisions you have to make. You're like, oh my God, there's so much music or there's so many movies,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like that's the problem I have when I
Right.
want to watch a movie. If I'm not going from my collection here, is like even if I go to Criterion Channel, because that's usually my first go-to. I mean, sometimes I go to a Netflix or HBO or something else, but usually I go to Criterion Channel, and it's still overwhelming because there's thousands of
Yeah,
films
it
on
can
there.
be.
It's like, how do you decide?
Yeah, Criterion is a little bit better, but yeah, it can be
It's
hard.
still tough, right? And one of my few complaints about the Criterion Channel is their genres kind of suck. Like you can't really search things by
But
genre.
I do like their collections though. I like their
Collections are
collections,
great.
like
Collections are good.
yeah.
But like if I want to
I
watch
think that but yeah.
Yeah, but like if I want to watch a horror movie, there's not really a genre. Like you can't really look up horror genre. I mean, they technically have genres, but if you look at the movies in there, there's usually like 20 or 30 movies in there, which I know is not their entire collection of like horror movies or whatever.
They
But
don't
the
have like a lot of horror movies on there, honestly.
that's kind of have to go with Criterion, right? You have to go by collection. Like if you're not going by
Yeah.
collection, or like if you don't already
Yeah.
know, and that's one of my things is I'm at a point where I don't really know what I want to watch, right? I'm not in
Mhm.
that mode where I was a couple of years ago where I'm like I need to watch all the films of these famous directors. I need to watch these top 100 films. 'Cause
Mhm.
I've done that, right? I've seen all of the famous films, all of the big films, and I'm not a completionist in the way that I used to be. I mean, there's still some directors I'm completionist with, like your Bergman, Tati, and a couple others, but most of the time, that's just not the direction I want to go anymore. Like, I want to watch a movie because I want to like
Mhm.
enjoy a movie, and so having these Blu-rays is just an easy way to be like, oh yeah, like I don't have to think
Yeah.
about it, right? I just reach in, I grab something.
Right.
I know I'm gonna
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it, right? Whatever I grab, I bought it, so there's 100% chance that I'll like this movie. It's nice to have that
Yeah.
assurance.
Yeah, I'm still in that mode. I'm still in that completionist mode. I just think there's so many, filmmakers I've yet to really like dig into fully that there's always something to watch. But and it changes on a weekly and monthly basis, my preoccupations with like this filmmaker or actor or writer or whatever, and this guy and whoever. And so, I'm always like trying new and different things. But of course, the paradox of choice is still always there, especially at the end of the day, when you're trying to find something to watch, it can be kind of like an assault where you're just kind of like, oh, I want to watch this, but I should watch this. It's like, it can be kind of hard to decide. I've got my collection. I try not to buy too many. I used to have a bunch of DVDs, but I got rid of them a long time ago. I don't need DVDs. DVDs can always be replaced later on with Blu-rays anyway, and they're much better and nicer. And of course, the new thing is 4Ks as well. So
Yeah.
I don't have a 4K player, but I have a few 4Ks. Like I have like a Die Hard 4K, and the Pat Garrett collection I got has Blu-ray, but also has 4K disc on it as well. So
Yeah, my
that'll
mom
be nice, right? Like
working that.
Criterion has been rolling out their
They're
4K,
Ultra 4K.
releases, one there, one here, just kind of like
Yeah.
along with their many Blu-rays that they release each month, they'll put like a 4K out. And the thing about like physical movie media or whatever is that like it is like at a crazy time because even just outside of Criterion, there's so many like boutique Blu-ray companies or labels or whatever putting stuff out like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow Video. Like, if Criterion didn't put it out, and Criterion, they have a particular kind of set perspective of movies that they put out, but then there are people that put out like Blu-rays and 4Ks of movies that are even way more obscure, like an obscure kind of like horror, Italian horror film that Criterion will never put out because
Yeah.
it's too trashy or it's too this or it's too that. So, like you could pretty much find anything now on like 4K or Blu-ray that's lovingly, curated and put together by someone. So it's cool.